up, it's Steve from that old Yorkshire geek, and I'm doing a list. It's a list again. It's the 10 darkest Star Trek episodes ranked. This is according to Screen Rant. That could be a load of nonsense, couldn't it? But we will see. We will see. A lot of people, say Star Trek is too dark these days, under the Kurtzman, Alex Kurtzman. And that could be... that could be a valid point, and I probably agree with many regards. But Star Trek has been dark in its past, but I think in its darkness in the past, it still maintained a bit of optimism. Whereas in a lot of Kurtzman Trek, that optimism seems to be gone. Starfleet often does bad things. It seems to be the bad guy. Same with the Federation, But never mind. We will see what this article says. Right, so let's get on with it. By the way, I'm really tired, so I might yawn. There'll be some editing. I might jump about a bit. Because I'm jiggered. Right. Here we go. 10 darkest Star Trek episodes ranked. Even the utopian future of Star Trek contains its fair share of darkness. Here are 10 of Star Trek's darkest episodes ranked. And there's Captain Sisko, Captain Pike, the new one. Newer one, and there's Commander Riker looking decidedly mental. Right, Star Trek may take place in a utopian-like future, but the characters still face their fair share of darkness, whether they involve impossible wartime decisions or terrifying mind games. Several Star Trek episodes contain incredibly dark themes and moral dilemmas. Starfleet officers often face off against the unknown, which can lead them to some surprisingly dark places. Situations do not always play out as planned, and conflicts become inevitable with so many different civilizations and cultures involved. Some shows like Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Enterprise and Star Trek Discovery have long story arcs that find the characters involved in devastating conflicts or all-out wars, while the more episodic series of Star Trek The Next Generation and Star Trek Voyager may not feature lengthy arcs. Their one-off episodes can pack quite a punch. Whatever package the story comes in, Star Trek does not shy away from the darkness of its universe. Still, even its darkest episodes show the resilience and humanity of the best officers Starfleet has to offer. Alright, number 10. No-win scenario. Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 4. The only good season of Star Trek Picard, to be honest. Although I did enjoy Season 1 for the most part, but, I'd recognised its flaws. Right, and there's Captain Shaw. In Star Trek Picard's no-win scenario, Admiral Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart, Captain Will Riker, Jonathan Frakes, and the crew of the crippled USS Titan find themselves unable to stop the ship from sinking into a dangerous gravity well. As the ship descends, Captain Liam Shaw, Todd Stashwick, and his first officer, 7 of 9, Jerry Ryan, work to ferret out changelings who have infiltrated their ship. When it looks like all hope is lost, many of the crew members gather in the holodeck. There, Shaw finally confronts Picard about the role he played as Locutus of Borg at the Battle of Wolf 359. Many of the crew members gather in the holodeck. No, there's only a few. Anyway, delivering a devastating monologue about the horrors he experienced. I wouldn't call it dark, though, to be honest. That was a particularly dark episode. None of Star Trek Picard Season 3, to be completely honest, was particularly dark. It was like a traditional series of Star Trek, to be completely honest. But anyway, whatever. Number 9, Yesterday's Enterprise, Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 15. And the heavily damaged USS Enterprise C emerges from a tear in space-time. It alters the future. In this new reality, Captain Picard's USS Enterprise D is a warship. The Federation is locked in a devastating war with the Klingons, and Tasha Yar, Denise Crosby, is still alive. Remember, she got killed by Armus in Season 1 of The Next Generation. Whoopi Goldberg, Guinan, Whoopi Goldberg, the bartender of the Enterprise's 10 Forward, is the only one to sense that there is something wrong with the timeline. She insists that the Enterprise C must be sent back to its own time, but Picard is reluctant to send the ship on a suicide mission. In the end, the Enterprise C goes back through the space-time rift and Yar goes with them after being told about her pointless death in the Prime timeline. Yeah, I suppose it was a reasonably dark episode, because like I said, the Enterprise C goes to its doom. But Tasha Yar has an honourable. Well, she doesn't really, because she goes back, but she doesn't go back and get killed. She thought she was going to get destroyed with the rest of the Enterprise C, but she doesn't. She gets captured by the Romulans and ends up bearing a child to a Romulan chap who becomes Sealer, a baddie. But anyway. Number 8, The Thaw, Star Trek Voyager, Season 2, Episode 23. This is an episode I generally skip. I don't like this episode at all. Even Star Trek acknowledges that clowns can be scary. In The Thaw, that's not why I skip, because I think clowns are scary, I just don't like the episode. In The Thaw, Captain Janeway, Kate Mulgrew and her crew come upon a group of people in stasis whose minds are trapped in a simulation. When Ensign Harry Kim, always an ensign, poor lad, Garrett Wang, and Chief Engineer Belana Torres. By the way, I know I pronounce it Garrett Wang, but and people keep telling me it's pronounced Wong. But my son said to him, "Hello, Garrett Wang," at a convention, and he didn't correct him, so never mind. Chief Engineer Belana Torres, Roxanne Dawson enter the simulation. They discover that a sadistic clown, Michael McKean, who you may know from Spinal Tap, has been feeding on the fear of his victims. The clown can quite literally scare people to death, and he proceeds to torment Ensign Kim while Torres works to shut down the simulation. Everything about the clown and his creepy circus makes this a frightening episode, and the fact that the victims have been subjected to this mental torture for years makes it all even darker. I suppose so. As I said, it's an episode I don't particularly like. I'm not a fan of episodes where they're trapped in in a simulation, or they're stuck in their own minds and what they're seeing in their own heads and stuff. I don't like stuff like that. I like straightforward episodes. I'm a simple man. Through the Valley of Shadows, number 7, Star Trek Discovery, Season 2, Episode 12. This is when Star Trek Discovery started getting proper rubbish. I quite enjoyed Season 1 of Star Trek Discovery, despite its flaws and the terrible Klingons and horrible ship designs. But I didn't mind the story, and I wanted to see what happened next, because I found it interesting. But Season 2, despite Pike, Anson Mount, raising it up a little bit, for the most part it was garbage, and Discovery was garbage afterwards, right up until the end. I presume the last season is going to be garbage as well. Right, the fate of Captain Christopher Pike, Anson Mount, has been known to Star Trek fans since the 2-part episode of Star Trek, the original series, The Menagerie. After the character was reintroduced in Star Trek Discovery, his fate became even more tragic for several reasons. For one, Pike is a genuinely good man, and Anson Mount has made him such a charming and likeable character. Then he discovers through the Valley of Shadows, Pike learns of his destiny to be horrifically disfigured and ultimately accepts his tragic future. Pike has one of the darkest futures of any Star Trek character, and though no one deserves what befalls him, he may deserve it the least. But it all turns out fine. He ends up going back to Talos 4 and lives out the rest of his life in an illusion with Vina and the Telosians. So it's not all dark. He ends up having a happy ending. Number 6, Charlie X. I don't find this a dark episode. It's an episode that has some, a couple of quite shocking moments, but I won't call it dark. It looks like he's got false arms there. It looks like a puppet. But anyway. I want to stay. That's how it ended, isn't it? Star Trek, the original series, had a number of surprisingly dark episodes, including one of the earliest episodes of the series, Charlie X. That's it, I don't particularly find it dark. When Enterprise takes on a young man named Charlie as a passenger, they eventually realise that Charlie has powers he uses to get what he wants. Throughout the episode, Charlie makes people disappear, severely injures multiple crew members, and in a particularly disturbing visual, makes one woman's face disappear entirely. She does. The ending proves to be just as dark as the rest of the plot, as Charlie is taken by the powerful Thasians who gave him his power in the first place, despite his pleas to stay with his own kind. Bet he was a knobhead, but you can't blame him because he'd lived with Thasians his whole life, and he couldn't come to terms with his basically his hormones were running rampant. He fell in love with Yeoman Rand, and who can blame him, to be honest? But he made Uhura lose her voice, or he made all the sound disappear in the rec room, because Uhura, her voice stopped when she was singing, and she went like, and the noise from Spock's Vulcan harp lyre thing, whatever it's called, that stopped as well. What else did he do? He turned somebody into a lizard, an iguana. He made that woman's face disappear, made people disappear entirely. But they were all brought back and they were all put right, except for the crew of the Antares, who were killed when Charlie made the baffle plate on the warp core disappear, and it made the ship blow up. So the Thasians couldn't bring those back. But as I said, I didn't find it particularly dark. But anyway, number 5, Frame of Mind, Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 6, Episode 21. This one's kind of dark. I bet the episode that I find really dark isn't in this one. But then I'm a UFO chap, or I used to be, into UFOs, and I bet that episode's not in here. I bet you know which one I mean. But we'll see. We'll see. Right, number 5, Frame of Mind. Right, Star Trek The Next Generation's Frame of Mind puts Commander Riker, Jonathan Frakes, through the ringer, bringing him to question his own sanity. As Riker performs a play about a character in an insane asylum, he finds himself living out a similar experience. This episode is presented in such a way that even the viewer questions how much of it is real. Riker keeps switching between two different realities, one where he is on the Enterprise, and one where he is trapped in the asylum. Eventually, Riker shatters the illusions, breaking through dreams within dreams, to escape the aliens who had been probing his mind. So basically it was Inception, done years before Christopher Nolan got his hands on it. But yeah, it's a decent episode, is that, and it is quite dark. It has darkish themes, I suppose. But again, not one of my favourites. Not one of my favourites. Damage, Star Trek Enterprise, Season 3, Episode 19. This is dark, what I'd class dark for Star Trek, because it's about a Starfleet crew doing things that they don't want to do. So there we go. So I will explain. Right, Star Trek Enterprise Season 3 takes a serialised approach to storytelling. I loved Season 3, the Xindi arc, and depicts the ongoing conflict with the Xindi. In Damage, the Xindi returned the previously captured Captain Archer, Scott Bakula, to the Enterprise, where he discovers that at least 14 crew members have been killed and the ship has suffered heavy damage. Archer makes the controversial decision to steal the equipment needed to repair the Enterprise, prompting an unusual outburst from his Vulcan First Officer, T'Pol, Jolene Blaylock. T'Pol then reveals to Dr. Phlox, John Billingsley, that she has become addicted to the mineral Trellium, which has weakened her ability to control her emotions. Between Captain Archer's questionable decisions, he had no choice. And T'Pol's struggles with addiction damages a surprisingly dark episode of Star Trek. Yes, it is. That's what it is. The Enterprise, NX-01, had been basically on the verge of destruction at the hands of the Xindi reptilians, and I think insectoids as well. And it was dead in space. The warp core were gone. I think they may have actually had to eject it. I can't actually remember. They did something anyway, and they needed basically a new warp core. And the only people within range that they knew that they could get to, because they were down to impulse power, I think. The only people that were in range that could get to was somebody that they'd met, a couple of episodes before, or maybe the previous episodes, I can't remember. But a few episodes earlier. And it turned out they were the same species as Una from Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Illyrians. But they didn't look anything like her. They had head bumps and stuff. And the captain of the Illyrian ship were played by Casey Biggs, who you may know as Damar from Deep Space Nine. But they had to they tried to, trade. We want your warp core, basically, but we'll give you plenty of supplies and stuff. You can get back home, in a few months, because they weren't that far from home. We'll give you plenty of supplies and all that. And obviously they said no, because they needed their warp core. So Archer was forced, basically, to storm the ship, did like a mission to, go aboard the ship and steal the warp core. But they still left them all the supplies and stuff. But, it was a tough decision. And also we found out about T'Pol's addiction to Trellium, which had happened. I think it started early on in the season. It's because of all the anomalies and stuff that were going on in the Delphic expanse. But when they went aboard a Vulcan ship, I think that's when she first started losing her marbles. Yes, it's a good episode is Damaged, but then all of season 3, most of season 3, is pretty good and really dark in places because they've got to do things, because the fate of the Earth, essentially, is in the balance, so, the needs of the many and all that. Right, The Siege of AR-558, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 7, Episode 8. It's another quite dark one because it deals with warfare, and something we don't see a lot of in Star Trek, ground warfare. We see a lot of ships shooting phasers at one another and photon torpedoes, but we don't see a lot of battles on the ground, do we? Even in Star Trek Discovery, when they had the Klingon War in that, we didn't see a lot of ground battles either. But we did see a bit in Strange New Worlds a few episodes ago. That's what we're going to see next, actually. but anyway. While plenty of Star Trek episodes of quick phaser fights or spectacular space battles, few episodes depict the characters fighting on the front lines of a gritty, realistic war. In The Siege of AR-558, Captain Benjamin Sisko, Avery Brooks, must help Federation soldiers fight to keep an important communications array out of Dominion hands. When Dominion Jem'Hadar soldiers arrive to try to take back the array, the young Ferengi Nog, Aaron Eisenberg, loses his leg in an ambush. Though Sisko and his team manage to hold the array, many Starfleet personnel lose their lives in the fight. This episode sees Nog, one of the sweetest characters on DS9, I won't go that far, receive a life-altering injury and depicts the dark realities of war. Yes, it does, and that's it. It changed Nog's outlook, although he didn't give up Starfleet or anything. I think he went on to become a captain eventually and everything, didn't he? He had a ship named after him in the 31st century or whatever it is. But for a few episodes he was very down, but he did get a prosthetic leg and all that. But then is the next episode that I'm talking about, Under the Cloak of War, Star Trek Strange New World, Season 2, Episode 8. Probably the best episode of Strange New Worlds that we've seen. Maybe, not my favourite. I said during the review, probably the best, but not my favourite, because it wasn't a fun episode. And I like fun episodes, but it's about Dr. M'Benga. As the darkest episode so far of Strange New Worlds, Under the Cloak of War revisits the time Dr. M'Benga, Babs Olesen-McCann, I'm sorry, and Nurse Chapel Jess Bush spent serving in the Klingon War. When the Klingon general turned ambassador Dak Ra, Robert Wisdom, visits the Enterprise, it dredges up painful memories for M'Benga and Chapel, particularly M'Benga. Previous episodes have featured Dr. M'Benga's brutal hand-to-hand combat skills, and this episode fills in some of the gaps in M'Benga's past. So we learn he was like the best in Starfleet at hand-to-hand combat. This was before he was a doctor, apparently. He was like some sort of secret agent, probably for Starfleet intelligence or something. Not Section 31, I don't think. Under the Cloak of War belongs to Babs, as he delivers an incredibly compelling performance up to and including the final powerful scene between him and Captain Pike. Because spoilers, him and the Klingon, I forgot to put the name now, it says there, Dak Ra, they have a tussle, and Dak Ra gets stabbed in the chest with his, is it Dak Tag, his dagger, his Klingon dagger, which actually was in the possession of M'Benga at the time. And they basically, I don't know if they lie or not, they kind of lie and cover it up about what happened, saying it was self-defence, and it could have been, we don't know, because we don't actually see what happened. We saw it all happened behind frosted glass. We just saw shapes moving and we just heard noises, but we didn't actually see what happened. And it was, like I said, a good episode, really good. Right, number 1, so they haven't included the episode I was talking about, we'll get to that. Number 1, In the Pale Moonlight, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Episode 19. Star Trek Deep Space Nine is arguably the darkest Star Trek show. Not really. Especially in its later seasons. Oh, Star Trek Deep Space Nine altogether. Yeah, it probably is, yeah. Especially in its later seasons, as it depicts the devastating war between the Federation and the Dominion, widely regarded as one of DS9's best episodes. In the pale moonlight, shows Captain Sisko working with the Cardassian Garak, Andrew Robinson, to coerce the Romulans into joining the fight against the Dominion, because they were staying, neutral. I think they actually signed a non-aggression treaty with the Dominion. The episode is framed by scenes of Sisko recording a personal log, describing his actions, saying that he can live with the forgery, bribery and murder that he condoned if it saves the entire Alpha Quadrant. He didn't really condone it, because he wasn't happy about it, but in the end he says, I can live with it, and then deleted his log. We're all kept under wraps. The final scene shows Sisko deleting his personal log, removing any evidence of his and Garak's actions. The captains of Star Trek generally have a strong sense of morality, but DS9 shows the effect war can have on even the best officers, as did Enterprise in that episode Damage. So there you go. Some reasonably dark episodes, but my personal favourite dark episode of Star Trek is the episode Schisms. Yes, Schisms, where the crew of the Enterprise D are getting basically abducted by aliens. Riker's not getting any sleep. It actually looks a lot like that. Hang on, there we go. Looks a lot like that in the episode. Because he's not getting a lot of sleep. He's going to bed, seemingly falling asleep, and then waking up, and it's morning again. And he's feels like he's not had any sleep because of getting abducted, and it turns out other crew members have been going through this as well, and it turns out there's aliens from a subspace realm basically abducting them, experimenting on them, cutting them apart, cutting off their arms or whatever, and then reattaching them and sending them back. So that's it's an alien abduction thing, and it's really dark. It is and spooky when you're in the alien realm, and all you can hear is the aliens clicking. Bit of a disappointment when you actually see them, but never mind. But that would have been in the top 10 for me. Some of them may have taken out. Charlie X would have taken out that one. The Thor would have taken out, and probably that one as well. I included that through the Valley of Shadows. But anyway, there's your list for this week. Right, we'll leave it there. Hang on, where are we? Where have I put it? There we go. Right, so, thanks for watching, wherever you are, look after each other, and until next time, I'll see thee.